Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Emma, and this is Max. Today, we're going to talk about something really important for anyone learning English: how to build a daily routine that helps you learn and improve every single day.
Hi, everyone. Yes, building a daily routine can make a huge difference. Learning English can feel hard sometimes, but if you do something every day, it starts to feel easier. You don't have to study for hours, just small things each day can really help.
Exactly. So let's start by talking about why a routine is important. When you have a routine, you are training your brain. You're telling it that learning English is important to you. You're giving your brain the chance to practice regularly, which helps you remember new words and rules.
Right, Emma. It's like going to the gym. If you go just once, you won't get stronger. But if you go a little bit every day, over time, you'll see big results. Learning English works in the same way. Small, consistent practice is key.
Yes, and having a routine also helps you stay motivated. Sometimes, learning a language feels overwhelming because you don't know where to start. But when you have a routine, you don't have to think too much about it. You just follow your plan.
So, let's think about what a daily routine could look like. Imagine you have 20 to 30 minutes each day to focus on English. That's a good amount of time if you use it wisely. You could start with listening practice. Listening is super important because it helps you understand how native speakers talk.
Yes, and there are so many ways to practice listening. You could listen to a podcast, watch a short video, or even listen to English music. When you listen, try to catch new words. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. Just focus on getting the main idea.
Exactly, and to make it easier, you can choose topics you like. For example, if you enjoy sports, try listening to a podcast about your favorite sport in English. Or if you love cooking, watch cooking videos in English. This way, learning doesn't feel like a chore because you're enjoying what you're listening to.
Great point, Max. Now, after listening practice, you can spend some time on speaking. I know this can feel a bit scary, especially if you don't have anyone to practice with, but it's really important to speak out loud. You can talk to yourself if no one is around.
Absolutely. You can describe your day, talk about the weather, or even say what you're going to do tomorrow. The goal is just to use the language. Don't worry if it's not perfect. The more you practice speaking, the more confident you'll get.
Another idea is to record yourself. Use your phone to record your voice, and then listen to how you sound. This can help you hear your mistakes and improve your pronunciation.
That's a great tip, and you can also repeat what you hear. For example, if you're watching a video or listening to something, try to say the sentences after the speaker. This helps you get used to the rhythm and sounds of English.
Yes, repetition is really helpful. It's like training your mouth to make the sounds of English. Now, after you've done some listening and speaking, you can move on to reading. Reading helps you learn new words and see how sentences are put together.
And you don't need to read long articles or books. Start small. You could read short news articles or even read posts on social media in English. The important thing is to read something you find interesting.
Yes, and if you find a new word, don't just skip it. Write it down in a notebook. You can come back to it later. And if you have time, try to use that new word in a sentence. This helps you remember it better.
Exactly, and that brings us to the last part of your daily routine, writing. Writing is great because it helps you organize your thoughts in English. You can write about anything, maybe a diary entry, a short story, or even just a few sentences about your day.
Right, writing doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is just to put your ideas into English. You can even write down the new words you've learned and try to use them in sentences. That's a great way to remember them.
So, to sum up what we've talked about so far, your daily routine could include listening, speaking, reading, and writing. You don't have to do all of these every day, but if you can include them in your routine, you'll start to see improvement in your English skills.
And remember, it's not about how much time you spend each day, it's about doing something every day. Even if you only have 10 minutes, that's okay. It's better to practice for 10 minutes every day than to do nothing for a week and then try to study for hours in one day.
Exactly. Consistency is the key, so start small, find things you enjoy, and stick with your routine. You'll be amazed at how much progress you can make over time. Now that we've talked about the basic parts of a daily routine listening, speaking, reading, and writing, let's dive a bit deeper into how you can really make the most of your time when you're learning English. One thing that can really help is to make your routine flexible and fun.
Yes, flexibility is so important. Sometimes people think a routine has to be strict, like doing the same thing at the same time every day. But life doesn't always work that way, right? Some days you might be busier than others, or maybe you're just feeling tired, and that's okay. What matters is that you still find some time for English, even if it's just 5 minutes.
Exactly. One way to make your routine flexible is to have different activities you can do depending on how much time or energy you have. For example, if you're feeling energetic and you have 30 minutes, maybe you can do a combination of listening, reading, and writing. But if you're tired or only have a few minutes, you can do something lighter like just listening to a podcast or reading a short article.
That's such a good idea, Max. I think it's also helpful to change up your routine every now and then. If you always do the same thing, it can get boring. But if you try new activities, it keeps things fresh and exciting. For example, if you usually watch videos, maybe try listening to an audiobook one day. Or if you usually read the news, try reading a short story instead.
Yes, and you don't have to do big changes either. Even small changes can make a difference. Like, if you're used to studying in the morning, you could try doing it in the evening for a change. Or if you usually listen to English in your house, take your headphones and go for a walk while you listen. A new environment can make learning feel different and fun.
Oh, I love that idea. Learning doesn't have to happen in one place. You can practice English anywhere while you're cooking, driving, or exercising. And speaking of environments, it's a good idea to surround yourself with English as much as possible. You can turn your phone language to English, follow English-speaking people on social media, or even set reminders on your phone in English.
That's a great tip, Emma. The more you hear and see English, the more natural it becomes for you. You start to pick up new words without even realizing it. And if you're following topics that interest you, it doesn't feel like studying. You're learning while doing things you enjoy.
Exactly, and let's talk more about making learning fun. One thing that really helps is setting small goals for yourself. Learning a language can feel like a big task, but if you break it down into smaller goals, it becomes more manageable and rewarding. For example, you could set a goal to learn 5 new words each week or to listen to an English podcast every other day.
That's right, and it feels really good when you achieve those goals, doesn't it? It gives you a sense of progress and motivates you to keep going. And when you meet your goals, you can reward yourself. Maybe after completing a week of learning, you treat yourself to something nice like watching your favorite movie or having a special meal. Rewards make the process more enjoyable.
Yes, and while we're on the topic of goals, remember to make them realistic. Don't try to do too much at once. If your goal is too big, you might feel frustrated if you don't reach it. Start with small, simple goals and build up from there. Over time, you'll see big improvements.
Definitely, and another way to stay motivated is to track your progress. You could keep a journal or a notebook where you write down what you've done each day. For example, you can note the new words you learned, the videos or podcasts you listened to, or any speaking practice you did. When you look back after a few weeks, you'll be surprised at how much you've accomplished.
That's a really good idea, Max. It's like having a record of your learning journey. And it can also help you see which areas you might need to focus more on. For example, if you notice that you've done a lot of listening practice but not much speaking, you can adjust your routine to include more speaking activities.
Yes, and speaking of different activities, let's talk more about some creative ways to practice English. One fun way is to combine English learning with your hobbies. If you like cooking, you can follow English recipes and cook along with them. If you're into photography, you can watch tutorials in English. The idea is to bring English into the things you already enjoy doing.
I love that! When you combine learning with your hobbies, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like fun. And you're still improving your language skills at the same time. Another great idea is to play games in English. There are many language learning apps and games out there that can help you practice vocabulary, grammar, and even conversation skills, and they're really fun.
Yes, language learning apps are a fantastic resource. You can use them when you have a few minutes, like when you're waiting for the bus or taking a break. These little moments add up over time, and some apps even have challenges or leaderboards, which can make learning feel like a game.
That's true. And if you like a little competition, you can also find a language partner. Someone who is also learning English, or even better, a native speaker. You can chat with them online or in person. Having someone to practice with makes learning more interactive, and you can help each other stay motivated.
Yes, that's a great point. Language exchange programs are a fun way to meet new people and practice in a real conversation. You can talk about everyday things like what you did during the day, your hobbies, or your plans for the weekend. This helps you practice using the language in real situations.
Exactly. And if you can't find a language partner, another idea is to join online forums or social media groups where people practice English. There are so many communities online where learners help each other, share tips, and even correct each other's mistakes. It's like having a study group, but online.
Yes, and speaking of mistakes, I think it's really important to mention that making mistakes is okay. In fact, it's a normal part of learning. Sometimes people feel scared to speak or write because they don't want to make mistakes. But remember, every mistake is a learning opportunity. It shows you what you need to improve on.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you try, the better you get. And if you learn from your mistakes, they actually help you improve faster. It's better to try and make a mistake than to stay silent and not practice at all.
That's so true. So just to recap a bit on what we've talked about today, be flexible with your routine, make it fun by combining it with your hobbies, set small goals, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. All of these things can help you stay motivated and make learning English a part of your daily life.
Yes, and most importantly, enjoy the process. Learning a language is a journey, and it takes time. But with the right routine and mindset, you'll keep getting better day by day. So far, we've covered a lot about building your daily routine for learning English, starting with listening, speaking, reading, and writing, then making your routine flexible, fun, and creative. Now, in this final part, we want to focus on two really important things: how to stay consistent with your routine and how to measure your progress over time.
Yeah, staying consistent is often the hardest part, isn't it? You might start strong, but after a few days or weeks, it can feel hard to keep going. And that's totally normal, but there are ways to make it easier, so let's talk about those. One thing that really helps is to connect your routine to something you already do every day.
That's such a good point, Max. Think about things you do every day without even thinking about it, like brushing your teeth, having breakfast, or checking your phone in the morning. If you can link your English routine to one of those habits, it becomes easier to remember. For example, if you check your phone every morning, you could spend the first 10 minutes reading the news in English or reviewing some new vocabulary.
Yes, that's what people call habit stacking, right? It's when you take a new habit you want to build, like practicing English, and attach it to an existing habit you already do. So maybe you decide that every time you drink your morning coffee, you'll listen to an English podcast. Or after you finish dinner, you'll spend 10 minutes writing in English. By connecting it to something you already do, the new habit becomes easier to remember.
Exactly. And another thing that can help is setting reminders. You can use your phone or a planner to remind yourself to practice English at a specific time each day. It doesn't have to be a long time, even 15 minutes can make a difference if you do it regularly.
Right, and speaking of time, it's important to be realistic about how much time you can spend on English each day. Sometimes people get excited and want to study for hours every day, but that's not always sustainable. If you try to do too much, you might get tired or lose motivation. It's better to start small, like 10 or 20 minutes a day, and gradually increase the time if you feel comfortable.
Yes, small steps can lead to big results over time. And it's important to be kind to yourself, too. If you miss a day or two, don't get discouraged. Just pick up where you left off. Learning a language is a long-term process, and it's okay to have ups and downs. The most important thing is to keep going.
Exactly, Emma, and to help with that, I think it's really helpful to have a support system. It could be a friend who's also learning English, an online study group, or even just someone you can talk to about your progress. Having someone to share your goals with can make you feel more accountable, and it can also be motivating when you see others working hard, too.
Definitely, learning with others can be really encouraging. And it's also fun to celebrate your progress with someone. Like when you learn a new word or finish a difficult lesson, it feels great to share that achievement with a friend or group. Plus, they might have tips or advice that can help you with your learning.
Absolutely, and speaking of progress, let's talk about how you can measure it. It's sometimes hard to see improvement day by day, but over time, you'll start to notice that things are getting easier. One way to measure your progress is by setting specific, measurable goals. For example, you could set a goal to learn 50 new words in a month or to understand 80% of a podcast without looking at the transcript.
Yes, those are great examples, and keeping a language journal is another great way to track your progress. In your journal, you can write down the new words or phrases you learn, the topics you've listened to, or even just how you feel about your learning that day. After a few weeks, when you look back, you'll see how much you've covered.
That's a really good idea, Emma, and I think it's also important to check in with yourself regularly. Maybe once a month, you can ask yourself, how am I doing? What's working well? What's difficult for me? This kind of reflection helps you see where you're improving and where you might need to adjust your routine.
Yes, and reflection can also help you stay motivated. Sometimes, when we're focused on learning, we forget how far we've come. Taking a moment to look back and see your progress can give you that extra push to keep going. It reminds you that all the small steps you're taking are adding up.
Exactly, and don't forget to celebrate your successes, no matter how small they are. Whether it's understanding a conversation better, remembering a new word, or feeling more confident when speaking, these are all big wins. Celebrating them helps keep learning fun and exciting.
Yes, and I think it's also helpful to change up how you measure progress sometimes. For example, you can test yourself by having a conversation in English with a friend or recording yourself speaking on a topic for a few minutes. Then, listen to the recording after a month and compare it to your earlier attempts. You'll probably notice that your pronunciation is clearer or that you can speak more confidently.
That's a great tip. Recording yourself is a powerful tool because it allows you to hear your own progress. You can also try setting challenges for yourself. For example, 1 week, you could challenge yourself to only speak in English during certain parts of the day, maybe when you're ordering food, asking for directions, or even just talking to yourself while cooking.
Yes, little challenges like that are great because they push you out of your comfort zone. And even if they feel hard at first, they help you grow. Each time you challenge yourself, you'll build more confidence, and eventually, things that once felt difficult will start to feel easier.
Exactly, and you can create challenges that fit your level. If you're an elementary learner, your challenge might be something like writing a short paragraph every day. If you're at an intermediate level, maybe your challenge is to watch a movie without subtitles. The key is to keep challenging yourself a little bit at a time.
Yes, and remember that learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time, and everyone learns at their own pace. So don't compare yourself to others or feel discouraged if you think someone is learning faster. Focus on your own journey and trust that if you keep practicing every day, you will improve.
That's such great advice, Emma, and I think one last thing we should mention is the importance of enjoying the process. Sometimes learners get so focused on studying and practicing that they forget to have fun with it. But learning English doesn't have to be all about textbooks and grammar exercises. You can have fun by exploring English through movies, music, books, and conversations with new people.
Exactly. When you enjoy the process, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like something you look forward to. And when you're having fun, you're more likely to stick with your routine and stay consistent. So find ways to make English a part of your daily life in a way that you enjoy.
Absolutely, and with that, I think we've covered some really important tips for building a strong daily routine for learning English. We hope that you found these ideas helpful and that you feel inspired to create your own routine that works for you.
Yes, and remember, consistency is key. Even small steps every day will add up over time. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and most importantly, have fun with your learning journey.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this podcast with your family and friends who are also learning English. We've got more great tips and conversations coming your way, and we'd love for you to join us on this journey.
Thanks for listening. Everyone, keep practicing, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.